Welcome back, all my 40k fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation, bringing my list that will be facing Lane tonight. This is our third battle. I said round, but that doesn't really make sense because we're still in the first round of the Tim's Nation tournament to crown the first faction and champion here on the channel that we will be defending against many, many other competitors that will be coming over on the channel. But for now, we need to crown the first champion. And today I will be bringing my Necrons. That's right, the Harvest returns. Canoptek Harvest, Canoptek Court, the Necrons. So this is for all the cronies out there. If you checked out my recent video where I talked about the Canoptek Court, a lot of the newer stuff, a lot of the stuff you'll see here, I'm going to try and implement and talk about what I've done, more or less use what I've talked about and done in this list, and we'll see how it does. Lane will be bringing Death Guard tonight, so we'll have them, their resilience, and their crazy contagion range to deal with. All right, enough said. Let's jump over in the list and see what we got and what we're bringing today. Let's go Necrons. This is my Harvest, the Canoptek Harvest, known as the Canoptek Court. So this detachment is focused heavily on Canoptek units. We have the Power Matrix to give us the rerolls to hit when we're in the Power Matrix, which our deployment zone is always a Power Matrix. And if we control at least half the objective markers in the center, or control our opponent's home field objective marker, then those portions of the battlefield will also be a power matrix that will give our units that are wholly within full rerolls to hit. A very, very powerful buff for a lot of units in this army, especially considering many of them have ballistic skills and weapon skills of 4. Full rerolls to hit make them very, very brutal. So let's jump in on what we got here today. First and foremost, Canoptek Doomstalkers. These guys are absolutely essential and amazing in this detachment. They are a high strength, high AP, 3 damage, which is pretty good, weapon, but they also have the Overwatch capability for a 5-up Overwatch. Since the Power Matrix is rerolls to hit, this also affects the Overwatch. So we're looking at a 5-up Overwatch with full rerolls. Very, very brutal for these guys. I absolutely love them in this detachment. This is their time to shine. Anyone who has bought 3 of these and waited for the moment when this detachment hit, this was the moment to use them. So we got 3 of them. They also have a 4-up invulnerable save, and they will gain a feel no pain from the spiders nearby, since the spiders give vehicle units a feel no pain of a 6-up. These guys are pretty resilient, even though they're only toughness 8. Those little extras like the 4-up invuln make them very tough to take down, and excellent backfield holding units, long range fire support. We'll move right into it. One of my absolute favorite units in all of 40k, one of my favorite units in this army, the Canoptek Spiders, aka Tomb Spiders of old. We have 6 of them. That is 3 2-man squads, all of which will have all the fixings. So we got the Gloom Prisms, we have the Fabricator Claw, we have Particle Beamers. So the Particle Beamer is the gun that these guys can take. They can take 2 per spider, making it 4 in total. Those guns also have blast. So shooting at a unit like a 20-man brick, this would be 16 plus 4d6 shots with devastating wounds as well. These guys actually put out a heck of a lot of firepower. I personally love these things. They're vehicles, so they can tank shock on the charge, and they hit pretty hard in combat with quite a few attacks, 5 attacks apiece, and just a high strength and a better damage characteristic than most. Not to mention, it's always fun when one of them goes down and you are able to reanimate it back and you go, hey, look at this, a vehicle just came back to the field. Next up, the backbone of the Canoptek army, the Canoptek Wraiths. So these Wraiths are just super fast, and with the fact that they can be led by a Technomancer, they are super resilient. 4 wounds apiece with the Technomancer giving them feel no pain. These are tough to kill. These guys are really able to put their presence on an objective marker fast and early. Their ability to move over units and do mortal wounds is decent. It doesn't come into play as frequently because you really want these guys to take that objective and continue your power matrix strength. But they are, I use the Vicious Claws to have the 2 damage weapons, because we have a lot of stuff that's 1 damage and can do damage to infantry. So Vicious Claws are where I go with these guys. And one of the 2 squads is going to have the Infiltrate Technomancer with them. And we'll also be joined by 2 Crypt Thralls, and that one is going to be more forward. So the 4-up Feel No Pain makes these guys very durable. These are great to get on objectives. And I also have a little bit of a trick that we're going to be working with these guys today to see how it works out. And that is the return of the Canoptek Scarabs. People have been down on the Canoptek Scarabs this edition because they are not as durable as they used to be. Used to be able to pop a 5-up invuln with a Chronomancer. Can't do that anymore. So these guys just have that basic 6-up save, which means they get burnt down pretty easily. Now, because of the fact that these guys get burnt down so easily, they're not going to be up in the front lines like they were in the previous editions and bogging down units. Instead, I'm going to utilize the fact that these guys have lethal hits and the fact that they can get +1 OC when there is a Crypt Tech nearby, and the fact that they can reduce OC when they're in combat. So now you're looking at a unit that can reduce OC, gain OC, blow up and do mortal wounds, 6 attacks apiece with lethal hits. These are going to be a counterpunch. So when my Wraiths are on an objective, holding an objective with their OC2, the Scarabs can come in, do lethal damage, do mortal wounds, reduce the OC, and help me just keep that power matrix going. Not to mention as well, controlling the objective so that I can score late into the game and keep my opponent from scoring objectives. Now, next up, we have 2 Canoptek Tomb Sentinels. These Sentinels, to me, are very pivotal in this list. I love them because of their Deep Strike. They have Deep Strike, they have a Toughness 9, they have 9 wounds. The Exile Beam is not too bad, higher strength, good damage, and the fact that whenever they shoot at a unit that's near an objective, they get additional AP. When they then get on that objective or near the objective, they get Armor of Contempt. Now, granted, they have a 4-up invuln, so you start not needing that as much, but still, anytime that you can start reducing AP and still sit on a 3-up, that's going to be great. And it's going to make it very difficult to remove these guys, so they're able to deep strike on an objective that maybe I couldn't normally get to. In some other iterations of different Canoptek lists, not having a unit that could deep strike on an objective really did hurt late in the game. So I like having these guys at 115 points. They're really nice. And come on, they're really cool looking centipedes. So we've gone over all the units. Now it's time to get into our characters. So first, a kind of non-character thing. We are, as I said, I am bringing 2 Crypt Thralls. Crypt Thralls can join any unit that is led by a Crypt Tech. So one of my squads of Wraiths that is going to have a Technomancer with them is going to have 2 Crypt Thralls. Basically, I use these guys so when I infiltrate that unit, if that unit gets hit early, the first thing to go is the Crypt Thralls, and the Wraiths are able to stay there. Some may say, oh, don't they slow you down? Not really. I put them up front, so they're the first ones to go. And since they're up front, if they do not die, then they're just kind of getting tagged and dragged along with the squad. Having those extra wounds is really nice. Since Wraiths cap at 6 models, these 2 extra models help me to keep the Wraiths at their starting strength for a longer period of time, especially when I infiltrate a squad onto or near an objective early and could take some fire early on in the game that I might not exactly like. Now we also, as I've said, have 2 Technomancers, 1 for each squad of Wraiths. Now, the converted floaty ghosty guy is going to be my Warlord, who will also have the Infiltrate enhancement. So he's going to be joining one of the Wraiths that will be infiltrating with all the thralls and all that stuff. Pretty simple. They give Feel No Pain, and they heal. So it's really nice to be able to heal a Wraith and then resurrect and do the reanimation to bring another Wraith back. It's a nice little added buff to be able to heal and then do reanimation protocol, so it can actually lead to being able to get stronger full-size Wraiths back into units, full-size models back into units, where in other circumstances I would not be able to. So very, very cool ability on them to be able to heal. It helps for getting it helps during the race reanimation, but they can also heal other stuff too. So healing a Doomstalker or something else that they're within range of. Last, and normally you say last but not least, but this might be a least because we're trying this guy out today. I have some thoughts. Is we are bringing a Psychomancer. I know, I've gone crazy. So is he. So the Psychomancer has a couple different Battle Shock abilities. First of all, he's an awesome looking model. But besides the fact of being an awesome looking model, he has a couple of different Battle Shock styled abilities. One of which you can target a unit at basically the beginning of any phase. I have to double check if there's any that it's not, but it's basically at the beginning of any of my phases. Target a unit and make it take a Battle Shock with an 18 at -1. If they fail, that unit's Battle Shock. So this is something that I can utilize to try to prevent stratagems from going on a unit, or drop a unit down to 0 OC and take the objective for tempting target, or being able to have a power matrix in there. So a couple little niche things that might be nice. Now, the trigger, though, is with this, it doesn't require line of sight. So this guy can go just hide in a corner and do this. Also, because he's a Crypt Tech, if I need to move forward with other units and I decide to keep my Scarabs back on an objective, he would be able to give the Scarabs OC1, so I still control that objective. Also, he has another ability that if you're near him, he can force you to take a Battle Shock if you're just below starting strength instead of below half strength in your command phase, which I don't expect that to come into too much play, maybe once, considering he's going to be by himself. If you're that close, he's probably going to kick the bucket. The other two things are, one, I can go rush him into something, let him die, and then spend a command point to give them Curse of the Crypt Tech to get +1 to hit and wound versus that unit that just killed him. And there is the ignore cover stratagem, which also doesn't require line of sight. So what I'm doing is I'm using this guy as a very, very cheap beacon for these abilities that do not require line of sight. So that is the list that I'll be taking up against Lane today. Much, much quicker video because I spent an hour talking about the Canoptek Court. This is what we're looking at. This is Necrons. This is my Canoptek Harvest, the newest version of the Harvest. Mostly I'm excited to try out the Psychomancer since I've not used him at all this edition. And most people haven't because he's kind of swingy for his ability, but I think there might be some play there. As well as getting the Scarabs back on the table. Scarabs, I love them, but it's been kind of sour this edition on how they function since they are significantly less resilient. And I think a lot of people, myself as well, have still that mind of bogging people down and tar pitting them with Scarabs, which is not the case. In a couple of games that I've played with them in the past, I started to notice this more and more where there was other abilities that I could get out of them. And that's what we're going to try here today. So that's really about it. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, Lane is bringing the Death Guard. So it's going to be Necrons versus Death Guard, green on green action. And this will be our third battle for the tournament. Right now, Grey Knights and Votann are moving on. So who's it going to be? I'm obviously hoping for the Necrons. Let us know in the comments section. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.